Did everything in our power to try to make that Jon Jones fight, and it is what it is. Not only is Jon Jones not afraid of Francis, Jon Jones is the baddest fighter. Most of the people that cover this sport know nothing about the sport. And they don't know anything about the sport. Francis didn't want to fight Jon Jones. He does the same thing to Francis. Out for 3 years, right? Sits out for 3 years. Jon Jones has a great chin. Jon Jones is good anywhere the fight goes. And Jon Jones is a killer. He's a killer. Jon Jones doesn't go in and try to squeak out Cyril Gane.
Yeah.
If Cyril Gane doesn't go for that submission,
right,
Cyril Gane wins that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said Club Shay Shay. Dana White interview. You know, sometimes when this recessive mother talks, man, he just takes me off. Especially when he talks shit about Ngannou. When you talk shit about Francis Ngannou, the UFC heavyweight champion that never lost his belt. Come on. Come on, man. Okay, let's go through it. First question he was asked, he was like, do you regret not making the Francis Ngannou Jon Jones fight? And he goes like, we did everything in our power to make that fight. It is what it is. That's what Dana White said, right? And I'm quoting. Remember. That's what he said. And Mr. Shay Shay moves on to the next question, and he asks that. He doesn't ask, but he refers to something that Francis Ngannou said. He was like, Francis Ngannou said the UFC told him that Jon Jones is scared to fight him. Obviously, UFC, Jon Jones, they're not in good terms right now. Let me say at that time. Why? Because they wanted him to fight. They wanted him to fight Francis Ngannou in the heavyweight division with the same contract that he signed for fucking a heavyweight division fight against the scariest dude, against one of the most powerful heavyweights to ever step foot in the UFC. And that is Francis Ngannou. They wanted him to fight that the baddest man on the planet, the baddest man in the UFC roster at the time. They wanted him to fight that Francis Ngannou, who knocked out Josino Rosenstrike, who knocked out fucking Alistair Overeem. We know the knockouts. The knockouts are popular. They're with the UFC. Right? But he keeps spewing the same bullshit. He keeps spewing the same narrative that Jon Jones is the baddest fighter on the planet, or he's the baddest, whatever you want to call it. Guess what? So if you are the baddest, does that mean you can't get knocked the fuck out? Does that mean you cannot get knocked the fuck out? That's what I'm asking. And then he talks about the Cyril Gane fight. Jon Jones walked right through Cyril Gane. What? Oh my God. That fight was embarrassing, in my opinion. Why? Jon Jones looked rusted as fuck. He looked rusted as fuck. What am I talking about? There was a moment in the first round where Jon Jones just threw man, I just can't remember the sequence, but it was something that he overextends and he leaves himself open. Cyril Gane just left him because it was too early in the fight. And then the IQ of Jon Jones literally That's where you gotta give John Jones credit. That his IQ immediately kicks in that I cannot keep this fight going as long as possible with this guy. Turns out Cyril Gane was out muscled by fucking Francis Ngannou. If you think in a split second of a moment that fucking Francis Ngannou was gonna get that easily dominated the first round like he did, you wrong. And he talks about people that don't know the sport. Yada yada. Francis has been active. Francis has been active in the UFC, and Francis has experienced a lot in the UFC. Fighting John Jones, it is nothing different to fighting Stipe the second time. Francis Ngannou versus John Jones, how that goes, Francis rushes him, he knocks him out. Trying to go for the takedown, Francis outpowers him. Dana White talking all the nonsense in the world. You know, and he talks about Francis Ngannou versus John Jones would go the same way as Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is inexperienced. Have you ever seen Francis Ngannou being caught in a submission and looking to tap? He referenced what he thinks is a relevant point, which was this fucking recessive makes me laugh, bro. He says Francis Ngannou barely made it against Cyril Gane. Of course he barely made it. He fought with an injury. He fought with a fucking torn ace MCL, bro. Torn ACL. Whatever you wanna fucking call those whatever you wanna fucking call those fucking things, bro. You know, recessive will never change their way, bro. At the end of the day, he is still talking shit. I shouldn't give a fuck, but he just ticks me off when he talks that too much. Let me say that too much shit about Francis Ngannou. You know, cause we know African power was beaten by the dominant Anthony Joshua, knocked out for the first time in his career. And you think John Jones was gonna submit him that easily? There is a countdown. Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane, and Fernando Lopez talks about that. Fernando Lopez talks about Francis Ngannou does not get faced by pain. You know, if you think you're gonna submit Francis Ngannou that easily, that was not gonna happen. We saw against Cyril Gane. He fought that submission. Cyril Gane thought it was in. You think a fucking neck choke can make Francis Ngannou tap out when he has that much power and when he's that strong? He talks about all the rookies that are covering the sport and shit when he himself doesn't know shit about his own fighters, when he himself doesn't know the strengths and the weaknesses of his fighters. Obviously, he's promoting John Jones. He wants us to talk about John Jones the way we are talking right now. But Francis Ngannou does not get beat by John Jones. Doesn't matter what this recessive think, but Francis Ngannou fucking knocks out John Jones out cold. Out cold. We saw he's not the same John Jones. Why is he not fighting? Obviously, he's pushing a narrative. The recessive boss is pushing a narrative that John Jones accolades are this big thing. When fucking Dana White himself protected him against Francis Ngannou. But nobody's gonna want to go with that narrative. Why? Because that fight will never happen. Because Jon Jones recently signed a new contract. I think 3 years ago, 2 years ago, he signed a new contract. And it was for 7 fights. So he's locked in for his whole career. We are never ever going to see Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou. And I wish he could stop talking that shit. It's better him, trying to avoid the question than trying to promote this Jon Jones, trying to promote Jon Jones as this best thing when he's not at his best when he's fighting. We saw his last fight. He made it look easy against Cyril Gane. But he looked rusted as fuck. Don't forget that. Go look at the fight. He overextends Cyril Gane. He's quick. He's a heavyweight. He just lets him go for that first round. And that's where you gotta give Jon Jones his props. His IQ, it is high level. You cannot you cannot compete with that man's fight IQ. Because when he overextended like that and Cyril Gane just let him go 90%, 90%, he knew that he was not gonna last. He knew that he was not gonna last. And how also Cyril Gane fought that fight. Cyril Gane over, let me say, the sequence of him getting fucking taken down. He just threw a fucking blind straight jab, but but covering distance. It wasn't a straight jab, but he didn't set it up at all. He just went with his feet and boom, tried to test how quick he is, but turns out Jon Jones is high level, man. He's a high level fighter. He just ducked that, took him down easily, and submitted him. You think Francis Ngannou would give in to that submission? I think you're crazy if you think Francis Ngannou gets that easily beaten by Jon Jones. That's what Dana White thought on the Club Shay Shay interview. Obviously, they had to ask him about him. The way it also shows that this recessive is a gutless punk. Obviously, Shay Shay, man. Credit to him when he talks about Francis. He mentions his son. May his son's soul rest in peace. Until this day, this gutless punk, just fucking dives straight into business. Francis does not fight for me anymore. I don't care about him. I don't care what he's going through.